few days ago, I ran across, let me show you this little cookbook that I found. Found this on eBay, and if I remember right, let's see, yeah, it's from 1929. So this is a Depression era cookbook. And I ran across a little breakfast recipe that I thought I would try and see how y'all like it, or see if I like it for that matter. I've done a lot of things before, but this is one I've never done. So let's try this. Okay, so I've got a skillet set up here. I've got just a little bit of spray in it because I don't want it to stick. But I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of butter in my skillet. Turn my stove on so I can get it warming. I'll cut that up so it'll melt quickly. Okay, set that aside. Now I know I'm going to have a 1/4 cup of some milk. I'm using some heavy whipping cream because I do know that heavy whipping cream makes my eggs fluffy. There's one part of this recipe that I won't be doing. I'll tell you about that as I get there. But stir my eggs up a little bit. Here in this measuring cup, I have a cup of very small cut up bread crumbs or bread pieces, just cubed up, a couple of pieces. And then I've got 4 eggs, and I've got this 1/4 cup of my heavy cream. It says you can use milk if you want to. I'm sure you could use whole milk, or you could use 2% or skim or whatever, whatever you usually use. Okay, so I'm melting my butter, and then I'm going to pour in these breadcrumbs. And it says to keep the breadcrumbs in it until they're golden. So I'm going to do that. And you could use whole wheat, or you could use your white bread. You could use your homemade bread for this, I'm sure. In the 20s, I'm sure there was still a lot of people making their homemade bread. Okay, so this little recipe calls for a cup of small cubes of bread. It calls for 2 tablespoons of mazola. I don't use corn oil, so therefore I'm using butter. And then I've got 4 eggs here in my bowl. And of course I've got my salt shaker there. And this calls for cornstarch. A 1/4 teaspoon of cornstarch stirred into the milk. Now I don't add a lot of starches to my food, so I will skip that. But then it calls for the 1/4 cup of milk and then some pepper. So I'm going to fry this bread and get it all covered in that butter. And then when it starts to brown real good, then I'll show you the rest of the recipe. Okay, so now you can see that my breadcrumbs have gotten pretty, they've got some crunchy on them. So the next thing I've got to do is add this milk. And then I'm going to add some salt. And a little bit of pepper. And I have to let that, and it says to let it kind of boil a little bit, and it is boiling a little bit in there. And I'm coating all of this bread with that heavy cream. And then I'm going to pour these eggs in on top of that. This sort of gives me the idea that it's going to be similar to French toast in a way. So we'll see. But I'm going to coat all of this bread with the egg mixture, and then we'll let it cook. Adding cornstarch to this recipe would thicken that milk some, but since I used heavy whipping cream, it's kind of already thick. But you could add the cornstarch. You could also add a little bit of flour, because it would work the same way. You think this is going to be a good recipe? You know, I was thinking that in the Depression, they learned how to make their recipes go further. And so this would definitely be a recipe that would increase the serving size of 4 eggs to maybe 6 eggs. So, and I could see, you know, frying some sausage or some bacon and add to this recipe if you have it. Some bits of ham would be good in this recipe. So it looks like it's done. I don't see any real wet places on it now. So I'm going to spoon some of it over here onto my plate. And then I'm going to try it and see. Looks like it's pretty hot. Yeah, I can see this with some maple syrup on it. That would really be good on it. So there's another recipe in case if things get rough, you know, if things start to go south. And I've got some videos coming up to talk about that, so be watching. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, be sure and subscribe, because we got some important things coming up. Until the next time, God bless you.